Girls like intelligent, titty twister, erotic roses. I don't know. Welcome to the Beat Around the Bench podcast about woodworking, good times, and general jackassery. With your hosts, Jess of Jess Build It, Colton of Cold Crate, and Ross of RNC Woodworking and Designs. You can find us all on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. In this week's episode, we fight the revolutions in a circular motion. Jess gets a visit from the magical tool fairy. Colton tries tickling someone else's ivories. And Ross is having trouble coping on the fly. All of that and more is coming right up on this episode of the Beat Around the Bench podcast. Now for episode 88, Black Hickory Down.
There we go.
Black Hickory Down. Nice.
I was trying to think if I've ever seen Black Hawk Down all the way through.
It's an epic movie.
I watched that one a good bit as a kid.
I kind of feel like a little bit. Maybe I have. I don't know. I don't remember.
It's a heavy movie as well. That's not one you watch and be like, oh, that was lighthearted.
Because it's like this happened. Yeah.
It's in the same boat as like Saving Private Ryan for me.
Yeah, almost heavier because at least they make it out of Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, this is true. Some of them do.
Yeah. Also, I hope I didn't just spoil Black Hawk Down for everybody. But
well, when was that movie? 10, 15 years ago?
More than that. Closer to 25.
Yeah.
So, boys, what's going on in the world?
I got cool news. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
But I had really cool news. So, guess who was in it just so happened that I was there too, which, you know, how sometimes I'm out a lot. Who was in my, reception area today?
Geddy
in my
Lee.
shop. No.
Maynard Ferguson.
No, a experimental blade rep for DeWalt.
Ooh.
Experimental.
So like their new stuff before it's out. They give out a big stack of them, and they're like, try this out. Tell me if you don't like it. I don't want to hear anything good. I want you to tell me how bad it is. And like, what's wrong? And I'm like, deal. You don't know who you're talking to right now. That sounds perfect for me.
That's awesome.
So like, he just had some stuff. He's like, what do you need? And I'm going to order it and bring it back in like a week or so. So I told him, and it's very interesting. You know, they're pretty serious about it. I mean, he talked a lot about, because we use Diablo, we use the Freud industrial side of things for like the 14-inch. And I said, the problem is, man, you guys just don't have enough stuff for, like, you need a heavy duty, thick table saw blade that you sell at Lowe's or Home Depot. Not like I got to wait and order on Amazon, because nobody ever has time for that. They don't know they need it till they need it.
They want a really good quality one that can be resharpened.
Plate, like a thick plate, you know, like, and basically what he told me is that all this thin curve stuff started happening because they were pushing people towards these battery powered things, because they were really pushing that. And, you know, a heavier duty blade just obviously wears your battery down. And so, but the problem, you know, it's a trade-off, because then it bends, and like these other things like the track saw blades. And now he's like, the new motors are stronger than some of the plug-in ones. So, and all of their stuff is going to be coming out, like the track saws and like the other saws, they're going to run on the 20 volt, 24 volt system instead of having to buy the new 40 volt, 60 volt max ones. And I know we talked for a little bit, but like he gave me some skill saw blades, like 7 1/4, and they were thick. I said, these are nice. And he goes,
nuggets.
Yeah. They're like, like 20% thicker the plate was. And I said, this feels a little more, you know, like substantial. They're making track saw blades. They're coming out with the new track saw, because their old one, I said, your old one was a flop. And he goes, yep. He's like, it was another one that they had already made for a long time, and then they just slapped the battery on it, basically. And I said, nobody liked it. And so they're redoing that and stuff like that. So he said that the track saw saws like and stuff are huge in Europe.
Yes.
And then that's why a lot of the track saws here are 7.5, because that's what they use, because it was 145 millimeters or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what they use in Europe. He also said that everybody makes a different arbor. So like Japan has a different arbor for, like everybody. So it's kind of confusing for them. So he said, but really what pushes all of it is like, for instance, Lowe's and Home Depot, especially, they just want to sell what sells, and they can sell a lot of. So just like the common stuff. And I understand that Home Depot only has so much space, right? They can't have like like they can't have inventory sitting.
No.
So he said that they're talking to Lowe's, and Lowe's is going to, if they can show Lowe's, like, look, these are what the people are saying, this is the things that they want, then they'll go a different route, right? So anyway, it was interesting. He gave me some free blades. I said, what I really need is some good oscillating blades, because those things are expensive and they dull like really fast. Yep. And I was like, you guys, everybody needs to step up their game with that stuff. It's too expensive and they wear out too fast. Yep. And he's like, okay. And I was like, jigsaw blades, hole saw blades, like all that different stuff.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff like wears out really fast. And I guess DeWalt and Linux, DeWalt owns Linux.
Really?
Yeah. So he's like, so they're taking and building they're building like a new thing for like their oscillating thing in the States that they got from Linux, and taking the technology that Linux uses to make their bimetal stuff and all that and use it in the oscillating blade. So there's some fun stuff going on. I don't know. It's really cool. So
if you build it, they will come. Yeah,
that's right. So he's like, I saw your reviews on Google, and he's like, I want to bring you some stuff and tell me how much you hate it. And I said, all right, I can do that.
Yeah.
So
that's perfect for you.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's nice. Awesome. And I thought it was cool running into the Milwaukee rep during all the Black Friday stuff and learning about pack out kits. That's way cooler of a rep to run into.
I saw a bunch of those guys there at the store, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
I've had some Festool engineers stop in my shop.
Yeah, you have the Festools. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have the Festool guys in there. It's nice that these companies reach out. I told him, I was like, you guys should go to Workbench Con. And he goes, oh, yeah, I know what it is. He's like, they won't do it. And I was like, all right. So.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I know I'm not typically the one to kick off things, but obviously Jess did. But I've had a wild adventure of a week since I talked to you guys last.
So we heard.
Tell me about it, brother.
So first and foremost, I did land both of the projects for the customer who's building for Range Rover. And so I am in the process of building out not only it's an 18-foot long drink rail broken into 2 9-foot tables, which is an interesting thing because it's basically mitered on every edge. So I got to work all these miters and figure out how it's all going to go together. So that's been an interesting conundrum to figure out. And then I also have to build a high boy table that's 8 feet long, but has a trapezoidal pyramid base. But there are two of these bases, and they wanted them narrower. And there's like physics involved that if it gets too much narrower than it is, then unfortunately, if people lean on the table, the whole thing will fall over, or we got to bolt it to the floor. So I'm curious to see how that all ends up working. But so I'm working on those. Today I did the install of the desk at the orthodontics office, and 90% of it went really well. The baseboards were 1.5 inches, almost 1 3/4 inches deep and 8 inches tall.
Wow.
They were massive.
It's like a step.
Yeah. And so I had to do some crazy scribing, but unfortunately, by the time I did all the scribing and pushed, and it looked awesome at the end, but by the time I pushed it all up, I had cut out enough to where the full depth of the drawer could no longer go all the way back on the rail, because I was trying to match everything. And so there's like 1/8 of an inch of the front of the cabinet sticking out, and then the whole drawer face. So like the frame of the cabinet, there's 1/8 of an inch, and then there's the whole drawer face, and it was all supposed to be tucked underneath, but we measured off the wall and not the baseboard because it is what it is. So I get to rebuild.
Get out of there.
So I ended up I installed this morning, and then I had to run a bunch of errands and go to some accounts. And then I came back in the afternoon with a Buzzy because they said, hey, can we just cut the baseboard? And I was like, seems like pretty expensive baseboard. I don't know if you want to do that.
Yes.
They're like, just cut it. We'll figure this out. I was like, okay. So I took the Buzzy and I set the line and I did it perfectly. And I got the baseboard out. But unfortunately, even after I did that, because of the flex in the wall there, because it wasn't totally straight, it's still sticking out. So I have to build a new cabinet that is going to be about 2 inches shorter in depth. So I gotta get different drawer slides and rebuild the cabinet and try and get that turned around.
Oh, there's no other way. You can't hide it with the top.
The top, unfortunately, is only it's 16 inches wide, and I built everything off of that, but it just from the way things fell and where it was sitting, unfortunately, that's what it is. So, got to make a new cabinet. It is what it is. I'll do it, and then take the other cabinet back. So, yeah.
That stinks, man.
But yeah, it is what it is.
It's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
I have made more mistakes with that kind of stuff. I have made just take it all back. Doesn't fit, doesn't work. I guess now I underdo it. Like there's a lot of filler because there's just my tops are bigger, just so much stuff that I allow now because I'm just terrified of that crap happening. SketchUp is a big help. Oh my God.
I did everything on SketchUp, but I didn't have obviously the baseboard factored in and the depth of the rails. They wanted 16-inch rails for full extension drawers. So I did that, but I built the body of the cabinet or the frame of the cabinet 16 inches, and then I had the drawer front sticking out some. But with the hardware they picked, it was still sticking out even more because it stuck out like 1.5 inches from the drawer face. So there was almost 2.5 to 3 inches of stuff protruding from underneath.
Those cabinets that those RTAs that we get, it's a 24-inch box to the front of the face frame, right? But they're 21-inch drawers.
Wow.
Because there's a bracket, there's a back, there's and there's all this room for wiggle. Usually I do a 22 on a 24 because I've got 1 inch in the back plus another inch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a nightmare. It's a nightmare trying to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And really, that's what I know I've said before, but being a woodworker, it's a compilation of all your mess ups. Yeah. And if you just remember how you messed up a little bit from last time, the next time that you face that potential mess up, then you're good to go.
Yeah. Now I did on that note take the baseboard and the toe cap or whatever you want to call that, toe kick. I took that with me so that I could put them together and perfectly scribe everything for the new cabinet, so it all fits under there perfectly, and I can just slide that in. But I did obviously take out the baseboard before, so I guess I could just slide in the new one and not worry about it. But I have it in case they want to put it back because it was, I'm assuming, very expensive.
Yeah.
So how was the customer?
Cabinet? I'm
What's
confused.
up?
I guess I don't understand. Is it behind the cabinet?
Yes.
You didn't just cut it out and stick it up against the wall?
So I did that. But I kept the piece of baseboard in case when I build the new cabinet, because I'm going to build it 2 inches shorter in depth.
Okay.
That if I go to put it back and you can see this gaping hole, I can either put that back or I could scribe things if I want to and try and build it correctly. So
nice.
But yeah, so there's that. I do have a question for you guys though. On scribing, most people typically say use the pencil and the compass to then scribe everything, and I got that part down. But cutting out everything, what is the method you guys use to cut out stuff when you scribe it?
Okay, so I got to tell you something. So I made a huge mistake, and we did these stairs, and they wanted wainscoting on some of it, and they were concrete stairs. It's a long story, but we made treads and some other stuff. And I didn't think about the skirt, and I put the treads in before the skirt, which meant that, and then they decided they wanted a skirt. So I had to scribe around each tread, and then all of the faces or because it was concrete, way out of whack, not square at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I YouTubed it, and I've seen this tool. So you get two boards. I don't know if you can see my hands. You get two boards together, like two pieces of 1/2-inch plywood would work. And then you put like a bolt, like a couple bolts through them so that you can pinch them. And then put them in the drill press and drill a hole a little bit smaller than your pencil, at like every inch. And then you stick a pencil in there and then screw the little bolts down and pinch the pencil and use the base of it. And then you can make your scribe, because you have to count like 6 inches or whatever. That's how I scribed around all those stairs. I just ran it. I set my my skirt, which was a 1x12, on top of the steps, kind of tacked it up, and then scribed where all my endpoints were, and then went out and took a square. And
so I know how to do the scribing part. It's more of a question of how do you cut once you have done the scribing? What are you using to cut?
Okay, I thought that's what you were saying.
Track saw on the straight stuff. And then like if I have to set the saw so I don't have to plunge, then you got to get really good at knowing how thick the blade is, right? So your waist stays on the right side, and a jigsaw on the other part, that part looks like crap.
I got a fun one for that too.
Okay.
Also with the bandsaw though. I saw it. So say you're like into a corner. I'm gonna try to describe this. You put like where you're cutting perpendicular to the blade, and you kind of go sideways with it, right?
Okay.
And you can tear out little bit by bit.
Yep.
And almost kind of smooth it without having to get like a scribe or like
It's
not
almost,
a scribe. What's the?
It's like a coping
I'm drawing a blank.
saw.
Coping saw, yeah. Like without that, you just use that end very slowly. It's probably not a very professional way, but I've done that before.
So that works really well when you're doing trim work. But the reason I'm asking this, I have a Hitachi. It is Hitachi before it switched to Metabo. I have a Hitachi jigsaw, and I have never been a fan of jigsaws because they flex like crazy. And I'm starting to get issues now where, like, as I was moving the blade and cutting stuff, something was stuck underneath the side and it was like digging into the paint job I had just done. And I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
so I ended up pulling out. I just got from Temple Tool Company, shout out to them, a Ryobi saw and a flush cut saw, Japanese hand saws. And I pulled out those bad boys and ended up doing 90% of the cutting with that. And then I ended up coming back to just kind of what you said, Colton, about using the jigsaw or a circular saw just to kind of like carve out some of the, I guess, rounded parts. And that worked pretty well, but I didn't know if you guys had a better method because jigsaws suck.
The jigsaw doesn't cut straight. There's a couple blades out there. Like there's one that cuts on the pull up at the bottom, kind of like a compression bit, and then also has teeth going the other way on the cut down. And it's pretty thick and it's longer. And so that cuts pretty good. You got to go real slow. Most jigsaws also have like that tilt thing where you can kind of like tilt the blade so that it's not 90, like it'll tilt better towards what the teeth are. But I cut as much as I can with a track saw or with a skill saw. Okay. A lot of those little skill saws is great too. Those small, like 4-inch ones that they make. Finish it off with a jigsaw. And then you need to keep a wood rasp with you, and a flat one and a round one. And use that because when it does that bend thing, you can kind of rasp that away from, the face. That's about it, man.
Right. I was about to say wood files as well. I guess rasp is a more fancy word.
Yeah, well, the file would be a finer one. Yeah, that works too. Coping saw, hand saws, whatever works best for each little thing, and lots of blue tape. So, like, because especially if you got pre-finished stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I use a table saw. Like, if it's a long filler strip and it's just curving, you just set the table height. You use this thinner blade, and you set the blade up and just kind of follow it by eye.
Absolutely. But I was trying to scribe around the baseboards and all the steps that are on an 8-inch tall baseboard.
I see.
And it wasn't fun. And I hate using the jigsaw because I don't have a lot of control with it.
We don't trust it.
I don't
Not
trust
very
it.
trustworthy.
So I didn't know if you guys had a jigsaw that you're like, I love this thing, or
Nobody
if you're
has
like,
I don't care if
Mine
it's
is
a
a
Festool jigsaw.
plug-in Harbor Freight. Like,
yeah,
You can put a straight
it's
edge on a
rough.
Festool jigsaw and it still doesn't, because it's going to follow the grain. It's a bendy, flexible blade. It's just not going to. It's just not. It's never going to cut straight. The physics aren't there.
it sucks. Okay,
I wonder if
A
there's
Dremel's
maybe
a good
like.
thing to have with you.
what's up?
A Dremel, or like if you
Oh,
get,
okay. I was gonna say Dremel too.
you get like if you keep a Makita, like, or some sort of battery powered router, and you can make yourself like a quick jig and
So-
use a flush trim bit.
I end up doing so much more with just chisels and hand saws and stuff because I have more control with those. But like I feel you guys, like there's no good way to do it. And
Well-
I know some guys, if you're cutting like PVC moldings and trim, that's easy. But I was trying to cut 3/4 inch plywood and it was all over the place.
It is all over.
Do you have a scroll saw?
I
Yeah,
didn't
can't
have
feed-
one with me.
Oh,
You can't
yeah.
put a whole
and
cabinet in there either.
Yeah. So that was the other part of what I was
Yeah.
going to say, and it was leading into some of the information in today's Snugget, but just trying to think ahead of like all the tools you might need when you go to install. It's such a dilemma because there are certain things you're like, there's no way I'm going to run into this problem. And then that problem always shows up.
Trailer,
Straight up,
man.
that's the
It's the
one.
trailer. It's the
Yeah.
trailer. You gotta
Yeah.
get a trailer.
I
Dude,
mean,
I do
I
that.
have a
Just
trailer,
keep
but it's a flatbed
everything
trailer.
in
It doesn't help me at all.
Well, you got to get you a small cargo, a used one, and just pack it full of crap and get it all organized and just have two of everything. That's the only way, man. I mean, really, it is. I've never been on a job. I would say 90% of them where I had everything that I could possibly have needed, and I put a lot of stuff in there. It's just there's always something that comes up. I mean, if I bring all the woodworking tools, then it'll be some electrical I got to do. Like it's always something.
So the
Right.
thing I forgot today, which when I got there, I was like, how did I forget that? I forgot clamps.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's something you're like, oh, I'm not going to need that. And truthfully, I didn't totally need it, but it would have been nice to have some clamps. I had tried pre-drilling so much stuff beforehand because I had to put like a rail flush against the wall. And first of all, trying to use a stud finder for metal studs suck. Like even when you get like you drill into them, then like they just start to like split from there. There's no like rigidity to it. You just have
No.
this one like
the light
16th of an inch thick piece of aluminum that you're trying to go into. It's garbage.
You
but-
can brad nail into them at an angle if you ever have to nail. If you nail one nail this way and nail another nail that way, it will hold it a little bit like a
Okay.
piece of trim.
This was, I mean, it was a full rail, so it was almost 2 inches by 2 inches by like 75 inches long. So I was putting that on to hold up the one edge of the desk because it was supposed to be a floating desk. So I had a post on one end because it was a U-shaped desk, and then the cabinet on the other that I have to make a new one of. And then against the wall, it was resting on this one rail. So, yeah.
Then you get the light. So what I used to do is you go over to the drywall section and find the screws that they use on light gauge metal studs, and then
The self-tapping ones.
Well, no, because a light gauge doesn't need self-tapping. They're just piercing. And it's usually like the fine threads are for the thicker studs and they're self-tapping. The coarser threads are for the lighter gauge. And then you have to pre-drill into your wood. Let's say you're going through a piece of wood through the drywall because it'll bite in that piece of wood and it won't work. So you got to drill that hole out bigger than the screw.
I had done that, and I used actually screws that had, I guess they would almost be like outdoor decking screws because they had a real fat like back end to them.
That'll work. Yeah.
And that gripped into it really well. So those, I ended up using like 4-inch screws there, and it worked really well.
And you have to stop as soon as it's tight because it'll just pop.
Exactly.
Yeah, metal studs suck. I used to do stucco over metal studs, and it was like, I want to lose my mind because there would be exterior gypsum, and we'd have to screw all the lath into it. And it was just always like this thing. It's good for fire. That's it. They are straight. Termites don't need it.
Yeah.
In Florida, they rust, though, because they're metal. They're steel.
Yeah.
So.
Man.
So Colton, what's the update from you, man?
Dude, I got some cool stuff going on. What was it this last week? So, we've handled a lot of pianos before, right? And
do you play them while you're moving them?
Oh yeah, we play them at the shop sometimes. Yeah, I mean,
nice.
I learned a few cowboy chords, if you will, on the piano during COVID, and so it's always fun to bust that out with the guys. But yeah, so I've done a lot of pianos, like more like moving, right, and like minor repairs on like legs and things. But we finally this last week have my first like full refinish of a piano, like full strip. We're actually removing the action of this piano and replacing felt pads and like making the piano work again. It's crazy. So this piano, it was in a house that had a leak in the upstairs, 2-story house, and where the ceiling crashed in was like right on top of this really old piano.
Is it a painted piano or is it stained?
Oh, it's stained. You can see some wood grain through it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like it was messed up, like internally messed up. And then, but as we're digging in, we start to see that it's been repaired before. And it's interesting. I think I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it's over 100 years old, this piano. But like, that's another thing. It's amazing the engineering of some of the stuff, like even like the lock on that one armoire I talked about forever. Right. Like in here, like it's all like carved piece of wood. It's amazing the engineering that they had before, like even the internet, like share ideas, much less. And like CNC equipment. Yeah. And yeah, but so it was neat. And it's also one of those projects to where it's extremely daunting. It's like, oh, Rick, do we have to remove the action from this? And so for those who don't know, action of the piano includes like the keys, and then like that key is actually like a 1 foot long, in this case, wood, piece of wood that hits another piece of wood that hits another piece of wood that flips
the string.
Yeah. Oh, that flips a felt thing that hits the string.
The hammer.
But like it was a matter of like maybe 10 screws, and we removed the entire thing, and it's really neat. And yeah, now it's not so daunting, right?
Nice.
And yeah, so that was cool. Like a little engineering in there, kind of like it's fun to kind of reverse engineer these things.
Isn't there like 10,000 pounds of pressure in the strings in a piano? Like it could kill you, some of the bigger strings, because there's so much tension. That's why they make them. There's like a cast iron trunnion in them to keep them from deforming. Yeah, pianos are so
I don't
cool.
know that. I don't know the number on how with the
lot.
foot pounds or whatever, but
it's literally like
I know
the springs on your garage door.
Yeah,
like that kind of tension.
I know. I was gonna I got a standing piano for my grandfather, and it was a little out of tune. And I was like, oh, I can tune a guitar. I'm going to tune a piano. And then I busted it open, and there's like 3 strings per note, and they're super tight. And I was like, oh,
yeah, nope. That's like
I'm going to pay someone to do this.
It's like a lifelong endeavor to learn how to tune a piano. Yeah, we had one.
Yeah, it's like tuning forks and all that.
$800 just to get them to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I did not tune my own piano. But luckily, we don't have to remove that cast iron, because we had talked about it at one point to get to the wood below it. And that was a little too daunting. I was like, Rick, I really don't want to remove this cast iron. I'm not trying to be a wuss on it, but for that wood underneath, it wasn't like soaked, like to where it's damaged. It was more of a just cosmetic, and so we're gonna sneak in underneath those strings to clean that part.
Each piano string typically has a tension of 160 to 200 pounds, so one piano has 35,000 pounds of tension.
Is that all?
That's all.
That's it?
That's it.
Man, but yeah, so tearing this piano apart is pretty cool. But you have it all stripped today. Oh, also the lid of it too. The lid of it snapped, right? So it's in like 2 pieces. And today I brought my dowel joiner with me. And I wish I had a biscuit joiner, but I brought the dowel joiner, and I got to show the guys that. That was kind of cool. But yeah, I did like 8 dowels into it across the whole thing. It's probably maybe a 4-foot section. It's a baby grand, so not ginormous, but there wasn't a lot right there to keep the strength of it.
Yeah.
Right. And right where the break is in it is where the arm, whenever you keep it open, rests.
Is resting.
And so it which makes sense why it broke there. But yeah, so I believe it. I glued it up today before I left. And
how do you clamp that?
Carefully. So I actually only did one like big Bessie clamp on it, and it, like just on like the peak of the curve to
Please
the
tell
flat
me
side.
you had gluing cauls set up on the top and bottom on both opposite edges.
Yeah, like you mean
just like
to
along
make
the
sure it's flat,
surface.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We did it on both sides.
Okay.
I used 2x4s.
Oh,
and clamps. Yeah.
Well, packing, taking a 2x4, you can do a lot.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I use shrink wrap and a 2x4. Yeah,
that'll work.
But yes. Thank you for saying that. But the hardest part too was I believe this seam has broken before. Actually, I know it has, and the guy did it before. I mean, like, yeah.
Let me guess, with hide glue sometime back in the day.
Yeah. It wasn't amazing his repair, but which I mean, obviously, it broke again. Which, granted, it wasn't under water and things, so it was put to the test for sure. But that's why I did so many clamps. But honestly, by the time I was able just to get these 8 dowels to go all the way in, luckily I hit my measurements well. It was already so tight. I think it barely needed the clamp, but I still put the clamp on for good measure.
Absolutely. Now, when you go to refinish this this piano, do you have to sand it all down, strip it all down, and then build everything back up from raw lumber? Or are you just going to try and fill in everything to match?
I'm not sure what you mean by fill in.
I mean, obviously, where the new joint is that you just glued up, you have to sand down that seam and then are you going to try and match that seam to the rest of the lid? Or are you going to sand down everything, totally bare wood, and build it back up?
Oh, like re-veneer it?
Yeah.
No, not going to re-veneer it. So I got it pretty good. Like majority of that seam's touching. There is like some physical wood missing from like the ends of it. It kind of has like on like the trim of it, like a slopey trim. That's what we do a lot is touch-ups, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll come in there, and if it needs to be filled, like say there's like actual material missing, you fill it in with whether it's like the epoxy wood, like you just mash it up and stick it in, or usually that. There's other methods, and then we'll come in with some colors, right? Whether it's like the aniline dye markers, or which we'll probably finish with that, drawing some grain, or like the aniline dye powders with the right now we're just still putting it into the pre-catalyzed lacquer and doing it. And like before, I've talked about it's all about camouflage, not about painting, and we'll go with that and just like camouflage that line to where you cannot see it anymore.
Wow.
And which we do that often. And with it being an obvious break before too, I don't think there's a high expectation of it to be completely invisible, which not to say that we're not going to do our best on it and make it go away. And another thing that helps too is that the stain on it is a very dark stain.
Yeah.
And, it's easier to match it with the darks.
Correct.
The light touch-ups on light wood are so difficult.
They suck.
Yeah. Like a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. Like it's easy to go bad on it. Or anything orange too. Yeah.
I could see that.
Or like a glaze. But yeah.
Like a donut?
I think it went well. The what?
Glaze like a donut?
Yeah. But yeah, that went good. Oh, also, really random project I helped my neighbor out with. So my neighbor, he's helped me out in the shop before, Rigo, right? I know I talked about him early on in the podcast. He is now working for Prevost, and Prevost is like the fancy bus line.
Okay.
Right. I think they may do mobile homes as well, but like fancy buses, right? Like they do a bunch of tour buses and things. And he brought this like just
is he like a trim carpenter for them?
No. he's like a on the line manager, so they repair everything in there. Which I was promoting XFR to him this last time. I was like, man, say y'all dent one of those veneered tables that go in mobile homes. Like, man, we can come touch that up, make it happy. But whatever. So he brought me this piece. It was a stereo cover, and apparently there's like a cabinet that just caught it enough that it's supposed to slide over it, but it was sticking out enough and just crushed it, which the engineering of it is not that great because it's just like a square piece and there's some really thin parts. And so, but it's all one grain of wood. So there's a lot of end grain that's going horizontal on it. Right.
Yeah. That's not a good idea.
Yeah. And yeah. So, and that's where it broke, was on the end grains, and it was like a white oak piece. And yeah, I had like just like a off cut of white oak, one of those pieces like this will be useful at some time.
Yeah.
That's been there for years. And
wait,
it was
useful. Are you saying you used one of the scraps you've been holding for years?
Yes.
Give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it was a corner triangle of white oak, and it had been like whitewashed on one side.
Yeah.
But I just made that the inside of the next piece, and got a brother out of a bind. And
Very nice.
I threw a coat of lacquer on it and gave it to him. Hopefully, I need to follow up, see if they went well for him.
Speaking of following up, when was the last time you tried to cut some hand cut dovetails?
Oh, it's been a minute. Oh, I've been using the Japanese saw quite a bit with work now.
Good.
Did I tell you about that one I got
at lunch or something?
What's up?
There we go.
Cutting pepperoni at lunch with it.
Yeah. No, there's a saw I got. I think it was from Lowe's, and it's like a 10.5 inch.
The Irwin one, right?
This one's not Irwin. It's all black, with like white accent.
Okay.
Like as far as like the brand, like not True Built, but something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe a $38 saw, but it's freaking awesome. Like the handles of it separate and they wrap around the blade.
Heck yeah.
Almost like
it's
a butterfly knife.
Blade. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like a butterfly Japanese saw.
That's awesome.
And it's
That's
great.
pretty sweet.
Another thing they do on it is on the ripping side of the blade, it's progressive, right?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
on the, which I've never seen that before. It's cool to me. Towards the handle, it's 10 teeth per inch, and then in like the main meat of the blade, it's 7 teeth per inch.
Nice.
And then you got your fine. Was it 20 teeth per inch, like the double kind of blade?
40.
4D. Oh man, yeah. And but yeah, so it's got both those sides.
No, you're right. It is 20.
It's 20. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way it eases into it. I like that.
Do you ever open up the butterfly Japanese saw as if it were like a switchblade?
And like make noises, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah,
no,
literally like whip it out and like like you're in a street gang in the 90s.
Dude, this thing's it when you fold it out, it's almost 2 feet long. That would be quite intimidating if somebody's flipping that thing around.
Mm-hmm.
And
nobody's going to mess with you on that job site.
Yeah, no, that last taco was mine, brother. Back off. Yeah.
Hey, you need me to cut your sandwich? Here, let me see it.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah. Oh, since we talked last, I think when I was talking with Jess, I now lock my toolbox, my pack out kit.
There's an idea.
Every time I leave the room now.
There you go.
Unfortunately, because I came back, we were doing a pool table, and where they do when there's holes in the pool table, you have to fill it with like Bondo or whatever. And
put balls in them.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
and
different holes.
Different holes. Yeah.
But I'm
put Bondo in, and I come back, and my like fine wood carving tools are being used with a hammer behind it to get this Bondo out. And I was like, I kept my cool.
Yeah, Ross,
we're on site, and I was like, Marcos, that is a fine woodworking tool. That is not a tool. Which luckily he understood, and he felt really bad. He was like, "Oh my gosh, how much are these?" I'm like, "You don't have to buy them.
It should have been like $1,000 a piece."
Yeah, and which no one's really asked me about why I lock it so much yet. But when they do, I'm going to tell them it's not about a trust thing. I'm not worried about you guys stealing them. It's I just need you to talk to me about the use of the tool before you borrow my tool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, well, I need to throw some flathead screwdrivers in there for that purpose exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Or just get like a masonry chisel. Those are just, people can whale the hell out of those things.
That's right. Yeah. Cold chisel. It's called a cold chisel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I still haven't bought a sharpening block for like my actual wood chisels.
Dude, you can get one
for the pack out kit.
You can get one on Amazon. They're like $14
with the rollers, and then they can be like exactly perfect. Yeah.
Oh, with the rollers too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like today, I don't know. I was running around. Luckily, I had a piece of 600 grit sandpaper, and I was just trying to get my chisel a little bit sharper. It was actually for that piano lid. I was having to clean a lot of the old glue out of there, and I just found a surface that was flat enough and used it to sharpen my chisel from there.
What you should do, and I know this sounds strange, but you should talk to Rick about getting a Tormek for the shop, because if you guys literally spend like 30 minutes once a week, either at the end of the week or the beginning of the week, sharpening all the tools, you'll be more efficient and more effective throughout the week.
You won't even use a chisel. That's what happens, Ross, is you don't even use it. After it's dull, it's like that's going to now be the last tool you'll ever use when it should have been the first one. That's what happens with me. It's dull. You got a bunch of dull chisels. You never have time to sharpen them. And so then they just sit there, and then you use something else.
I use my chisels daily.
Right, because yours are sharp.
You're right, because I sharpen them.
That's what I'm saying. If you have them sharp, you'll use them. If they're dull, nobody will ever sharpen them.
Yeah, the set of chisels that belong to the shop. There's no way we're gonna fix those by hand. Like, I don't know. Yeah, they're basically paint can openers at this point.
Oh God.
But yeah, I was looking at these chisels, and I like my first few weeks, my first month with the company, and I was like, I asked one of the guys, "Hey, come show me how you sharpen these," and he's like, "Oh, it's easy." He just threw down a piece of 220 on the table and just like lifts his hand at the end on the bottom side of it. And I don't even know if they're savable. Like you'd have to remove a lot of material. Actually, yeah. Whether you brought it in on the beveled edge or the flat edge, either way, you're going to be losing a lot. And it's going to need some serious grinding. They're going to be like a stubby pencil. You know, like when you sharpen it a lot, it's by the time we're done with it.
Good Lord. Yeah. Good Lord.
I brought up a Tormek before, which I don't know.
Even if you had a grinder with a good wheel on it, that would be better.
So we do have a grinder.
If you have a grinder and not the website, if you have a grinding wheel, you're able to then bring everything back down to flat at least, and take off all that bad stuff. That's when you would use the Tormek to then take it up to the next level.
Hey, and also, what grit do y'all go up to on your chisel? Like Ross, were you 3,000?
4.
4?
That's too much.
Well,
that's a razor blade, baby.
Yeah.
Wait, Jess, what are you doing?
So I've read a lot about this. I mean, some of the premier woodworkers say anything for a chisel that you use a lot, anything over 600, you're going to lose most of that on the first hit, especially if you use it on a hardwood. But I think 1,000 is probably 1,200, 1,400 is probably pretty good, and then maybe stroke it.
And also, it depends on the usage, right? Like
what kind of wood you're doing.
And...
It depends on the quality of the chisel, because a low quality chisel's not going to be able to hold that sharp of an edge no matter how much you sharpen it anyway.
I will say, I know this is an unpopular opinion in the high-end woodworking world, but the Cobalt chisels are actually really good steel.
How old are those, by the way?
Huh?
How old are they? The ones you bought?
At this point, almost a decade.
See, I think that a decade ago they made it better. And I think now it's just even worse. They just have companies just continually make things cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe I had some Cobalt chisels a couple years ago, and I mean, they would chip out on wood.
Really?
They were terrible. Yeah.
Well, I don't hate my
They
Stanley
don't look like
ones.
yours because I've seen yours in your video. They don't look like yours.
Okay. Huh.
So
Yeah.
I think you got to really read. You got to understand your metallurgy and read your specs, because if it's like cast steel and things like that, that's the way that if they're cold rolled, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Cold rolled steel is good because then the grain structure is kind of all going one way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well.
I got one last interesting thing. Sorry, that happened in the shop today. I almost forgot. We busted out an acetylene torch.
For what?
That was kind of fun.
Cooking
Yeah.
hot dogs?
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
the guy that messed with your chisel?
Right. I'm like, all right, give me your hand. You need the mark. Yeah.
That's right.
No, we had a bronze oil lamp, like an antique oil lamp. And yeah, it's just like a bronze pole, and it comes down to 3 legs. And one of the legs had broke. And yeah, I came in the morning, and Rick had the acetylene, or just like the small, like not acetylene, like whatever, just like a small torch. Butane torch. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I had gotten it off with that. And yeah, we went and bought some gas for this new acetylene torch he bought. And he was, it's not just torch, it has the welding sign on it. And he was brazing. That's the word.
Yeah, brazing it.
Was brazing this bronze. And it was kind of cool. I love it. I love that we now have a little bit of a metalworking in the shop now too.
Nice.
Cool.
And yeah.
Would you like to know what I did this week?
I would.
And last week? Those effing stairs. So we've had a lot of bids, a lot of SketchUp work, a lot of like running around and dropping materials off for guys and stuff, which is kind of good. But a lot of I had like a big bid that I made for almost 170,000 with like 90 line items in it.
Is that the one where the lady was basically like, "Oh, we're going to pass on this"?
Never said anything.
Yeah.
I've had several of those, but you gotta be professional.
Yeah.
But the stairs, and we had our one guy on it, and I said, listen, because Fingers came back. He said, listen, he ain't getting it. Like, he says he can do this, he can't do this. And I said, all right. So I'm like, I can do it. And so I called the owner and I said, get him off of the thing. Let me do it. And you go take him somewhere. And he said, fine. So I got over there and I took 10 seconds YouTube video and I was like scribing on stairs, and I saw this one guy. I was like, oh, well, that'll work. And so I just did that. I will tell you one way, if you got something really intricate, just freaking tape a giant piece of paper to the wall and get you a big scribe and then scribe it out. Because the thing with stairs is that your scribe doesn't touch. When you set that skirt board on the top of the stairs, the riser's like 6 and your scribe set up to like 6, it only gets a little tiny mark.
Yeah.
But if you had more room to write, you could make your scribe taller and you could really scribe out all of it, instead of just your high points. So maybe next time. But we got it close. I put some little 1/2-inch facing on them, and then it was fun. It was fun. I kind of actually enjoyed it. It's just the stairs treads were finished and they're like black and like clear coated, and I didn't want to scratch them, so we had to be very careful and clean the whole time, and that just takes a lot of time. We had some cardboard taped down, but that got in the way of the scribe, and so we had to basically clean everything and take it all off. And he's got epoxy floors at the bottom that are brand new. So it was like this whole don't scratch anything deal, but I got it in. Looks good. It looks good. It's a lot of copper paint, but it'll look.
I feel it on the don't scratch anything thing.
So, and I've been taking my class, my SketchUp class.
How is that going?
Well, we'll talk about it on the Nuggets, but it is good. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it'll be the best $600 anybody could spend for a year.
Okay.
I don't know what that is a month, but if you're wanting to learn it, I mean, we're talking like from ground zero. No, it's not going to teach you woodworking. It's not going to teach you construction, but it will teach you how to use the program. And it's every video I'm like, oh man, like why didn't, because it's about workflow too, because you want to be fast.
Yeah.
And it's quite good. So I'm enjoying that. I mean, I learn more sitting on the toilet in the morning than I do, sitting there struggling with it. Because I watch like 5 minutes of like one video. Because, I'm just trying to fit it in everywhere I can fit it in.
Yep.
And I'm awake, I'm not like sleepy. And struggling and trying to YouTube something and all that is not very time efficient.
No.
And so, watching somebody else do it and then like you trying to apply it in your mind at the same time is good. It's really good.
Nice.
And he literally, well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. Well, on that note, Jess, do you happen to have are we doing history today?
We are doing history.
Let's get after it.
It's the history.
Of woodworking.
Okay. So
Man, that almost gives me goosebumps. That's a good one. I did give me goosebumps.
DeWalt was there today, and we were talking about saw blades, and I said, well, what about the history of the circular saw blade? Why not, right?
Yeah.
So I will tell you, if you just like Google who invented the circular saw blade, you do come up with one name. But if you Google who invented the carbide tip circular saw blade, it's a whole bunch of different.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think I did find the answer.
Okay.
I did find the answer. So first of all, who invented the circular saw blade? And it is said to be.
Isn't it a lady?
It is a lady. I did not paste it in here. Oh, Sarah Tabitha Babbitt, a member of the Shaker community in Massachusetts, 1813. So they had a sawmill, and so she invented. It was probably high-speed steel or just regular steel at that time, but that's what all circular saw blades were made out of, was high-speed steel. In the 1920s, a lot more people started doing it because that's when they invented the portable electrical circular saws in the 20s, but it was still like high-speed steel. They were even using them to cut metal and stuff back then, and they called them hot blades, and they would cool them, and it's like this whole thing. And then this one company, Krupp, developed carbide in general. And I learned a word today. It was called sintered, sintered carbides. So basically there's these type of carbides that they mix with other things. Like, how you guys, when you buy them, it says like TIP, tungsten, something carbide.
Sure.
I don't know if the Diablo blades will say it on there. Those ones that cut steel, like the steel demons and stuff, TICP. It's all mixing different things in it, from cobalt to ceramics to different things that make them heat resistant, that make them keep a better cutting edge, and so on and so forth. But most of that tungsten carbide stuff was invented for machining, not for woodworking. Okay. So they figured out, because they needed things to like cut steel, to cut brass, to machine things, to put carbide tips on the ends of their machining tools and stuff like that in order to cut things. And so Krupp, a German company, developed the carbide, and it revolutionized metal removal or chip cutting and manufacturing in the 1950s. So
when they invented it, they called it the carbide.
It's called German scientists rolled out carbide into Kermet, CERMET, after World War II. That's the stuff where they started mixing it with like all kind of weird stuff. But what I did find is there was a guy named Arthur Siegel who passed away. This was January 13th, 2013. He died on January 12th. He was 101. This guy invented the carbide tipped wood circular saw blade. And so like he went to school for engineering and things like that. And then he started his own company, North American Products Corporation, designing, manufacturing solid carbide blades for high-speed machining of metal. So he was doing the same thing. And then he's like, well, what else can we machine with carbide? And then he thought, well, what if we put tungsten carbide on circular saw blades? Yeah. So he set up the whole process on doing tungsten carbide welding it to the tips of high-speed steel plates, things like that, and making what we use now is the carbide tipped. Now, all the like the rakes and the different tips and all that other stuff has come a long way since then. But this was 1942 when he started doing that.
Huh.
And then they started a big company that would like sharpen your tungsten blades so that there was support for the products that they were making.
Yeah.
And they started spreading all over the world. Their biggest one was in Jasper, Indiana. So that's the guy. That's the guy. Segal, Arthur Segal.
Father of Stephen.
Yeah, our father of Steven Segal.
Mm-hmm.
So he served as the director of the Wood Machinery Manufacturing Association, also as a director for the association's Industrial Fair Board. So this guy was like pretty serious, and he even represented the association in regard to product liability legislation in D.C. in 1966. He's pretty. He was like pretty something else. So since then, we've gotten all kinds of different carbide teeth. Now they got carbide teeth that'll cut steel, as we were just talking about, non-ferrous metals, ferrous metals, obviously wood. Now we have all the different rakes, the different chips, the different different ways of not tearing out, things for cutting plastic laminates, things for cutting veneers so that you don't get tear out. I mean, and then they've got all these vents and laser cut stuff in it so that they don't heat up. Or chip things so that it gets rid of the chips. Like there's just a million different ways that we have circular saw blades. But since what did I say it was? The girl? 1813 to now, saw blades are pretty impressive. You can go buy a skill saw blade that'll cut a piece of angle iron. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now they make carbide tipped buzzy blades. They make carbide tipped jigsaw blades, carbide tipped bandsaw blades, which is
what are
impressive.
the type of blades that and it's more for metalworking, I guess, but it looks like they're made of Kevlar almost, but they're used, it's like a circular blade and you put it on a spinning cutoff wheel, if you will.
Yeah.
What are those made of? Because they cut through steel.
It's silica and ceramics and stuff. The abrasive blades?
Sure.
Yeah. The abrasive blades, yeah. It's like silica, ceramics, and there's fiberglass. It's fiberglass embedded, epoxy, all kinds of stuff to hold it all together. I actually bought a steel cutting blade because we were cutting a bunch of angle iron for this one job, and it was steel and it had a diamond tip. It was the loudest thing you've ever heard in your life, but it never wore out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it was so painfully loud that if you didn't, you couldn't. You had to like almost wear double hearing protection. It was so loud.
Wow.
And everybody in the shop, it would make you. It would like you would grab your ears. It would be that loud to cut stuff with it. Yeah, they still sell them. Lennox. It was Lennox made it. But anyway.
I used a diamond blade on an angle grinder the other day to cut. I was helping Rick cut a marble slab. And it was kind of neat. He had come across some marble. I think his neighbor gave him some, right? They did a remodel and didn't need it. And he cut a few pieces, like curved the edge and polished it. Came out really well. Because he was redoing his laundry room. That's right. His washroom, and ended up doing those. But it was neat. It's a lot easier to cut marble than I thought.
It's very soft, actually.
Yeah, you just got to keep a good eye, like when you're using like that little bitty, like 4-inch wheel with an angle grinder. It's probably less.
And you got to keep it lubricated.
So, we kept the water hose.
The
on
DeWalt guy was telling me that they're going to be making track saw blades for cement backer board and things like that. One for the dust collection, and two because it's a track saw. Like, how great would it be to cut that stuff?
Cement backer board is the worst.
And he said the dust collection was a big thing because it's only got 4 teeth.
Yeah.
On the blade.
Holy crap!
And they're like big fat carb. I don't know. Have you ever seen them? Because we have Hardy blades here.
Oh,
dude, there's only like a dozen.
I got a Hardy blade, and it was probably 10 to 12 teeth, but like 4 teeth is just like throwing ninja stars at this thing.
It's only a 6.5. It's only a 6.5 inch blade.
Could you imagine when that thing runs? Like if it gets on a run and gets away from you, like that thing's jumping. It's not running.
It's literally like using the chippers in your dado stack.
Well, that's what he said. I mean, anything cementitious. We talked about me working on my house. The plaster has the silica in it.
Did you just say cementitious?
Cementitious. With a C.
Don't get excited.
I think I've given you this word before.
You've never given me the cementitious.
So thin set is cementitious.
Okay.
Stucco is cementitious. Cement is cement. Cementitious. Anything with any type of cement base, hardy backer, hardboards, it's all cementitious type materials. So they like in my house. Remember I told you I was cutting the holes for the lights.
Yeah.
In the plaster, and it killed 6 hole saws, like 3 hole saws.
Good God.
And you have to use diamond stuff to cut any of that crap because it's abrasive.
Shine bright like a diamond. I got one last question on saw blades.
Yeah.
So everything's carbide tipped. What's the reason for not just making the whole blade out of carbide?
Because it's too brittle. It's too brittle. It would snap. You need that flex in the blade from heat and everything else like that. There are router bits that are solid carbide, lots of those now, especially spiral bits, but they snap because it's so hard, right? So it's a give and take. You want a little flex, but then you want that cutting part to be abrasive resistant and durable to heat and things like that.
Yeah, it's like a tungsten ring. Yeah,
Yeah, it would break in a minute. You hit one knot and the whole thing would shatter.
I don't know how you know everything, but it's freaking impressive. Everything. You know a lot. I'll say that.
I don't know everything. Sometimes people think that I do, though, because they ask a lot of questions.
Well,
anyway,
let's
so there you
test
go.
how much he knows in the trivia.
Let's do
Better get on out that knowledge, cause it's trivia time.
All right, so we're going to have to move quickly tonight. We have lots of questions. Some of them have to do with saw blades. Some of them have to do with woodworking. And some of them have to do with women and girls, okay? I'm going to give you an acronym. You have to tell me, one, is the acronym have to do with saw blades? Does it have to do with something to do with woodworking? Or does it have to do with girls? Okay? And if you guess correctly, then you get the bonus question. You get to tell me what that acronym stands for. How about that?
Sure.
Sure. It's going to be easy. Don't
say that about the girls.
The saw blade ones are a little tricky. There's some saw blade ones I've never heard of, and I'll explain what those are. But this will be a little more education about saw blades today.
Well, let Colton go first.
This reminds me of have you ever seen the one with there's like I think College Humor did a skit on it where it's dog toy versus sex toy and you had to guess, and like some of them are difficult.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's make it easier. It'll either be woodworking, so anything that has to do with saw blades, woodworking, anything like that, or girls. Okay.
Okay. Okay. There we go.
All right, Colton, you ready to start?
Let's go.
All right. CNC.
Woodworking.
Okay, what's that stand for?
Computer numerical controlled.
That is correct. Very good. All right, Ross, are you ready?
Sure.
Witness.
Can I get a witness?
Yeah, witness.
Girls.
It's an acronym. That is correct. Woo! Do you know what it stands for?
Not a clue.
Women's International Terrorist Tracking Intelligence Network and Specialty Service.
Rolls right off the tongue.
On counterterrorism, specifically related to female terrorists. All right, I got to mark these off as we do them. Otherwise, I'm gonna get screwed up here. So let me put an X by this one and an X by this one. Okay, you ready, Colton?
Can I get a witness?
Let's go. TPI.
It's woodworking teeth per inch.
That is correct.
Man, Colton's on fire.
All right, Ross, what do you think? Are you ready?
Sure.
Z as in zebra, C as in Charlie, I as in India. ZCI. And you have one of these.
I'm going to say woodworking then.
Correct.
And let's go with
You're going to kick yourself if you don't get it.
Zenith Cutting Index.
No.
Wait,
I'll
zinc?
give you the
Zinc?
first word. I'll give you the first word.
Zinc?
No.
Oh.
0 is the first word.
Oh, zero clearance insert.
0 clearance insert. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready, Colton?
Oh, let's get it.
She. SHE.
She?
That's the acronym.
Let's go with girls.
That is correct. It is.
Let me guess.
Okay, go ahead.
Um,
That's actually the best part is guessing.
yeah. Superheroes.
No, it is
No?
saving. It's saving humanity's embers. The organization dedicated to empowering women and girls through education and economic opportunities. Very good, though. Good try. All right, you ready? All right, you ready, Ross?
Yeah.
F as in Frank, T as in Tom, G as in George. FTG. I'll give you a clue.
No, I just went totally inappropriate in my mind.
Nope.
I'm gonna go with
Girls or woodworking?
woodworking,
Okay.
and we'll
All right, so
say
a dado blade would be this a lot of times.
the
chipper
finesse the groove.
No,
Ooh.
flat top grind. It is a type of grind. A lot of these are going to be grinds on blades. Okay,
I don't see nothing wrong with a little bit of bump and grind.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with it. All right, are you ready, Colton?
Let it happen, Captain.
ATB, Alpha Tango Bravo.
ATB. I'm gonna go with woodworking.
That is correct. And I know you have multiple.
I have multiple of these.
100%. Most people do.
An all-terrain buddy.
I'll give you a clue. It is a type of grind on a tooth grind.
Aluminum terride, buddy.
No, it is alternate top bevel. So like those Diablo saws where the teeth go back and forth like that.
Oh,
That's alternate
nice.
ATB. If you look on your box, it actually says it on there. ATB. Very good. Good try.
Very nice.
All right. Glitter, Ross. Glitter.
Girls.
Girls. Yes. Do you know what it stands for?
Girls like intelligent, titty twister, erotic roses. I don't know.
No. It is the gay and lesbian independent therapists, educators, and researchers.
All
Provides
right.
resources support to LGBTQ plus mental health professionals. All right, good try though. You did good. All right, you ready?
I thought you were pretty close with the titty twister thing there.
You
Are
what?
you ready? All right, are you ready for this, Colton?
Yeah, let's go.
TCG, Tango Charlie Gringo.
Woodworking.
TCG. Okay, what is it? I have one of these. I don't know if you have these. This is my favorite. This is my favorite.
Oh. Wait, Ross, do you know it? Not in.
It's a it's a tight chocolate girth. Is what that is. Yeah.
Incorrect.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with tight chocolate girth.
It
for
is
100.
No, this is my favorite. It is a triple chip grind. Okay, so if you can see my hands, you've got one tooth that is shaped like this, so it's a little flat on the top and two little sides like that,
Mhm.
and then the next tooth is flat, and then it continues like that. It's called a triple chip grind. It keeps from having tear out, but cuts a nice flat thing. You should get one if you want a ripping blade.
Almost like a combo blade.
Yeah. They're usually only for good for ripping, really. Okay, moving on.
Ripping tear.
Lead, LEAD.
I'm gonna say girls,
Okay,
and it's the lesbian education athletic department.
you're pretty close. It is the leadership education for Asian Pacific American women.
All right.
All right, and I
Yeah,
think you know
we'll
that's
go with that.
Okay, we all know about Asian Pacific women. All right, are you ready, Colton?
Do we?
yeah.
Colton, OSB.
Oh, it's woodworking.
Okay, what is that?
Oh crap! What? The B is board.
Okay.
Oh,
It's which way the things are going.
oscillating.
Nope.
Opposite strand board.
You're close. Oriented strand board.
There you go.
Oriented strand
there we go.
board. Very good. Close though. All right, Ross, are you ready?
Sure.
MDF.
Oh, MDF is a woodworking one. Medium density fiberboard.
That's correct. Very good. Colton, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
WIC.
Girls.
WIC. Okay, go ahead.
Women in charge, of course.
No, it would be the opposite. Women, infants, and children. It's a supplemental nutrition, low-income, pregnant, postpartum, breastfeeding women. You get like the cheese and the peanut butter and stuff.
Oh,
People
cool.
with the food stamps. Yeah. All right. Moving on. Are you ready, Ross?
Okay.
Did you say the opposite?
Okay. So this is HSS. Excuse me, HSS.
HSS.
We talked about it already in today's podcast.
Of course we did. And it is going to be a woodworking thing. And it is going to be high.
Yes.
High snuggle.
What did they used to make saw blades out of?
High stretch steel.
High speed steel.
High speed steel.
High speed steel. High speed.
I was going for helicopters snuggle silently.
Oh yes.
I was not close.
That sounds
right.
aggressive.
All right, Colton, are you
Silent
ready?
snuggles. Yeah, oh yeah, let's go.
TRI.
Woodworking.
Okay.
TRI. Tiny resilient infants.
Incorrect. It is tri-grind. It's a combination grind of alternating bevel and then flat.
TRI was also the name of the company in the Ninja Turtles who produced the ooze that created the ooze.
Yeah,
Ross, are you serious right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
So
Look
like
at Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
most dado stacks, right, Colton?
Wow.
Most dado stacks have a tri-grind, right? Your chippers are flat, and then you got your left and right that score so that you don't get tear out if you have to put a dado cross grain. So
Right.
tri-grind. All
So
right.
that's not really an acronym, is it?
Well, it is. I mean, not all acronyms are exactly one letter for one word. You got to remember that.
Really?
You know?
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought that was like the definition acronym. I guess I didn't know that.
Huh?
There we go.
Yep.
All right.
It was, sorry, I apologize. I have to correct myself. It was TGRI, Techno Global Research Industries.
It's like
I was-
Skynet.
I literally had like most of that.
Yeah.
It's got to be worth
Hey,
something.
That's pretty good.
I'm extremely impressed. Like, that's digging deep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are you ready,
My
Cole?
mind works in mysterious
Do
ways.
you have any Ninja Turtle tattoos?
No,
Ross?
no
Okay.
tattoos.
Oh, actually, this Scott. This Ross?
Yes.
Is this you, Ross? FEMA.
FEMA. I mean, that's a government agency. I don't know if that's considered a girls' thing, but it's the Federal Emergency Medical Association.
No, you're close. Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Yeah, there you go.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's not exclusively women focused, but it doesn't. You know what it is. All right.
And they're slow to pay, at least in our industry.
Yes, they are.
This is for Colton.
SSG.
I'm gonna go woodworking.
Correct.
All right.
This is one I've never heard of. This would be something you were. I'll give you a clue. Corian.
Ooh.
Corian's the best guess. The best.
Silly, slippery Gorian.
No.
Solid state. I was about to say quartz, but that's not it. Granite?
No. What type of product
that was a good guess.
is Corian? Or star? Well, yeah. What type of product is Corian?
Corian, like it's like
It's a
almost
faux
like a
marble.
fiber.
like quartz and corian. What kind of? It's called solid surface, and that would be solid surface grind. So they make a solid surface grind. So it's their triple chip we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's got one like that, and then it's got one that comes really close and has a little flat.
I prefer the double chip, Chips Ahoy.
Double chips ahoy, yeah.
Double stuffed Oreos here.
All right, couple more. You guys are flying. Ross, AWIS, AWIS.
Woodworking.
Incorrect.
Oh no! Can I guess either way?
Yes, of course you can.
The Association of Women and Infants Suffrage.
No, infants can't vote.
Oh, wow.
Association for Women in Science. All right.
Cool.
Yeah, very good.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty good one. All right, you ready?
Yep.
MCT, Colton. MCT. This would be for you for sure.
Woodworking.
Okay.
I was gonna say woodworking before the gimmick clue, but I'm just kidding. What would it be?
Because you don't like to change your blade.
I don't know. Material clamp tie down.
You said
Multi-purpose carbide tipped. So these blades go left, right, flat, left, right, flat. They're good for ripping. They're good for cross cutting. They're good for everything.
Yeah, it's like a combo blade. Yeah,
it's just like a combo blade. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Also, we've talked about the combo blade, but I think this is the third time this episode. So my combo blade does need to get pulled out and cleaned and maybe even sharpened. I'm starting to feel it. Let's just like.
I'll get you some DeWalt blades. I'll send you when he sends me give it to me my 10s, and I'll send you guys some blades and see.
All
what you
right.
guys think of them. All right, couple more. Ready, Ross? Women.
I'm going to say that's about girls.
Yes.
Yep. It stands for women.
It stands for Women of Military Experience. Provides support and resources for women who have served in the military.
Wait, where's the N?
Women of Military Experience.
Nice.
I've seen acronyms.
Women of Military Experience. Nice.
All right, one more, and then I'll give you guys the rest of them.
This needs to be a tiebreaker because we're actually tied.
Oh, we're tied now?
Oh, no. Actually, Colton's ahead by one, so never mind.
Okay.
All right, first one to guess it.
Now.
Women.
Now. Yes? It'd have to be, wouldn't it?
Oh. Nice.
No other way.
I mean, this one's pretty straightforward, dude. This one's pretty straightforward. These all been organizations, so.
Not OnlyFans women.
Close. National Organization for Women.
Oh, nice.
Prominent feminist organization that advocates for women's rights and equality. All right, let me give you the last couple here, guys. You did awesome. There's one called a LTG, which is a left trim grind, and a RTG, which is a right trim grind. So they make blades that are made specifically for, your offcut being on the right or your offcut being on the left.
That seems very specialized.
It seems very specialized. And then the last one, I think a lot of us use these. So if you ever buy like a really high-end plywood blade, it's called like an MH or an ATB. It's a high 30 degree. So it'll be like high ATB, and it's the ones that go back and forth, but it's like a really sharp angle. Like they're really pointy. They don't cut wood for crap, but they cut plywood and stuff like melamine without chipping out.
I did find out that if you put painter's tape down on the seam where you're going to be cutting melamine, you don't chip out that way either.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, I still have had it chip out like on the underside or something like that, but I've also had it where I pulled the tape and pulled the melamine off or the paint or the the birch plywood and stuff. I will say the biggest thing that I've used to not have chip out is a freaking track saw. Track saws are the greatest thing because they hold the fibers down on the top and they cut from underneath. So it's like you get no tear out whatsoever. I just love my track saw. So.
And also, that's a good refresher too. I forgot about that tape method for something that's going to likely tear out.
Mm-hmm. It does work. It really does.
I forgot about that.
It does help. I will say, like when we do our cabinet stuff, I can put a piece of tape on a piece of filler and run it through a newer blade and it'll still chip out if I don't make sure that the finish side's on top. Because you want the blade to plunge into that side, push those fibers towards the wood instead of them exploding out the other side of it, right? So if I put the finish side down for some reason, it's going to want to blow out. But because my guys are always asking me that. They'll try to put stuff in upside down. I'm like, no. Put the face towards the blade so that the blade's pushing into it and it's exiting out of the bottom part of it. So when
you're using a track saw, you'd want to put your finish side down.
On the track saw, it doesn't matter because it's holding the top and the bottom down.
Yeah, well, if you've kept up with your rubber, your waist rubber,
this is true. Yeah. This is true. If your waist rubber is worn down, then that kind of defies the point. So the next time you guys
you're supposed to get new rubbers. Don't use a waist rubber.
The next time you guys are on Amazon or you're at Home Depot, look at the teeth grind, and you will see ATB high. You won't see triple chip, but on Amazon, the TCG for a ripping blade, I'm telling you guys, it's like the best blade. You can cut 2-inch thick hardwood and have no tear out, and it's easier on your blade. They're usually a lower tooth count. They're really good stuff.
Okay. I think, well, let me ask you guys, do you want to jump into some whiskey or do you want to jump into a little bit Snuggets first?
Do the whiskey, man.
Do the whiskey?
Oh, dude, whiskey all day. Well, not whiskey all day. Keep a job, right?
Yeah. The whiskey of the week. The whiskey of the week coming into this week was the Redwood Empire Rye. Colton, I can see you holding the bottle, so I know you were able to procure it, but did it dandy?
Did. Man, this was a wild one.
Yeah, in what way?
So, as I was tasting it, I was like, what the heck am I tasting here? Like, I couldn't put the name on it. And I looked up some reviews on it, and it's kind of funny. The reviews varied wildly, like as far as like what people were picking up on. But there was two that really made sense to me. And one is cedar.
Okay.
And
which that was a common thing in the rye.
Right. And like I've never thought about like picking out, it tastes like cedar. You know, I guess I don't know.
I've gotten
it was a new thing for me.
I've gotten in scotches, but never rye.
Yeah. You got to try this Cali rye, man. But yeah, then cedar, and then the other one, which I would have never came to it on my own, like at least as of today. But once I read it, it made sense, was mint.
So mint is pretty prominent in ryes. The other one that comes up quite a bit is either dill or dill pickles.
Oh, dill. Mm-hmm. I could see where that would fit in well. But yeah, so it was, this one had like a little bit of cedar, a little bit of mint.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's a really cool rye. It what was I saying? So like when you smell it, it kind of like smells a little sharp almost. Okay. And it's kind of a clean taste of whiskey, but it's not like, I don't know, not too much, right? But yeah, it is definitely really cool. So it reminds me of like a more Western James Bond, right? So like say Doc Holliday and James Bond had a baby and they made Matthew McConaughey, right?
I'm your Huckleberry.
Where he's just like, all right. Be a lot cooler if you did. And yeah, that's what it was. And I liked it.
Money penny.
Money penny. Right. And I liked it better with an ice cube in it. And man, I'm going to give this whiskey and 8.7.
That's pretty good.
Like, yeah.
Strong.
Like, when I was going through the list, like the X Factor, like the mint and cedar and a rye, like it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Like, I would definitely buy this again. I will buy it again. Do I want to share this with a friend? Yeah. And also, could I drink it all night? Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Like, this is a cool one.
And what did this one run?
Oh, it was like $39.
That's a strong review for a $39 bourbon or rye.
Maybe it definitely not over 50, like 40.
That's a great deal then.
Yeah. And I believe it's a newer distillery too.
Okay.
I don't know if it's high or low elevation or whatever. I know that affects it.
It can.
Okay, maybe it says it on it. I don't know. Oh, and it's coming in at 90 proof too. And so, honestly, it almost tastes like an 80 proof whiskey. Like, I don't know. Not in a bad way.
Very nice.
But yeah.
Very nice. Let's see.
Okay, here. I got it right here. Never mind.
They're in
Grayton, California.
Let me see where that is.
It's got some redwoods all over the bottle. Oh, I mean, the name of it's Redwood Empire, so I guess that makes sense.
Let's
Maybe
see.
northern.
Grayton, California is right next to Santa Rosa, just north of San Francisco. So that would be the hell. That's basically the Napa area. Yeah, there's a zip line apparently near there. Sonoma Zip Line Adventures. So
yeah, I just noticed on the front it says Sonoma County.
Yeah,
is where it's bottled in, at least.
That's wine country. Well,
Right
from wine country out in California, the next whiskey of the week is actually going to be coming real close down south to you, to the town of San Antone.
Oh, right.
Home of Devil's River Distilling and the Devil's River Barrel Strength Bourbon.
I want to say I've had that.
Yeah.
What I'm picturing is like a little squatty bottle.
It is a little squatty bottle.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the whiskey for next week. And I would like your honest opinion on it, Colton.
Oh, wait. You just got me scared now. Is this... Oh, man. All right, what'd you call it again?
Devil's River Barrel Strength Bourbon.
Barrel Strength.
Mm-hmm. Should run you about $30 ace.
Okay.
Or 30 doll hairs, as you were.
30 doll hairs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Devil's River.
Coming from the heart of San Antone, not too far from the old Alamo. And I do remember the Alamo. It was closed.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't get to go in?
No, I've actually the first time I ever went, it was actually closed. But I did get to go into the T-shirt shop across the way,
nice.
where one of the guys in my band got a T-shirt that was supposed to be for like a newborn's like onesie, and he put it on. He had it custom printed onto an adult schmedium T-shirt, and it said, "If mommy won't, grandma will," which is real gross to have on your shirt when you're in your 20s. So, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Oh,
so that was that adventure.
Yeah.
But I was able to go back actually last year for the first time in quite some time. I went back to San Antonio, and I was able to quickly tour the Alamo. It was like 110 degrees.
So do people like outside of Texas learn about the Alamo in school?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I did, but I don't remember.
It is a very short blip on the radar. It's like, hey, they tried to fight off the Mexican army, and they didn't. And in other news, and that's kind of how it portrayed.
Yeah. Oh, that is quite the Cliff Notes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do they have like state histories in all other state? I heard that
Florida
they did.
had Florida history.
Florida has Florida. Okay.
Illinois definitely has Illinois history. We learned a lot about Abe Lincoln.
Someone made me feel special once. Be like, oh yeah, they don't really study their own history in other states, but I guess I don't know. Yeah. We had Texas history and the world history or whatever.
Yep. Same thing.
How about that?
How about it?
Let's get into a little bit of Snugget action. You boys ready?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And what else, Jess? Thank you.
Yeah.
Jess, I think you should kick off this section.
So you know how I am about SketchUp and all that stuff. For woodworking, for construction, for planning, for any of that stuff, it's very vital, and it's simple as it's going to get, honestly, for doing that stuff, and accurate. Excuse me. So instead of getting yourself stuck, there's a website called SketchUpEssentials.com. And you can just go to it. There's a couple other ones.
Don't they have a whole YouTube channel as well?
He does.
I've seen a few of those.
I will tell you this. I joined the class. He messaged me personally and said, if you need anything, let me know. He made a little video just for me and sent it just to me and said, hey, Jess, if you need anything, because they ask you a lot of really good questions after you start. Like, what are you going to use it for? Like, do you have a business? Can I see like some of the stuff you've built? Or whatever,
yeah.
And that way I can I'll know more how to help you, because he's like a contractor. So cool guy, real down to earth, and he starts at the very basics of like how to download it. And I mean, by the end of it, you're taking it into like things and rendering it and making it, taking it to layout, making construction documents, whatever you want to do with it. But he takes each tool, like a whole video just on each tool. And then he'll be like, look at all the stuff. This is all the stuff you could use it for, and how to tag it and how to like lay it out. Cause there's a thing in there that I never even knew existed called an outliner that shows you where everything is. And like, you can group things within groups, and how to really make it work. How to use each tool in a bunch of different instances, so that you can take those principles that he's teaching you, and then when you're making something, you go, oh yeah, there's this like the keys, like the arrow keys. I never used those before, but they'll set a lock and you can use that to inference stuff. And I'm like, I get it now. I
use the keyboard shortcuts all the time.
Do you use the arrows?
So I don't use the arrows, but I know this sounds real dumb, but the one I learned recently,
the space bar
with it, yeah. The space bar brings you back to like your main cursor. And I was like, I would watch all his videos. I'm like, I don't see his cursor move. So there's got to be
select it.
Yeah. There's got to be a shortcut.
I still love my mouse that I made with the buttons on the side. So now I don't even think about that. But the arrow keys, this is like super SketchUp talk, but Ross, you'll understand it. So you've got your 3-axis. Each, the left, right, and up arrow will lock it on whichever axis. What? So like if you go to move it and you want to inference something all the way on the other side of the page, you just like say you hit the up arrow and you're moving it. You want to move it straight up. It'll move it straight up, and then you just inference that tip on that other one, and it brings it up to that, even though you can't.
Oh my God.
So
God, that's such a time saver, because every time you go to move something without those arrow keys, it'll move in whatever direction it thinks you're going, and you spend forever trying to line it up. That is awesome.
You can inference anything. It's great for like popping your lines for like measurements.
That is a nugget.
$600. You can watch it for a year, and it's a lot of classes. Like I haven't even made it through the fundamentals yet. There's just there are 15-minute sections. Okay. So it's very doable. But I really suggest to anybody that is learning it, just spend that money on it. You pay per month. If you don't want to spend all that money at once, it's just more money to pay per month, right? Yeah. So it saves you quite a bit of money to just pay for it. I looked at the other one. There's SketchUpSchool.com. It seems pretty fun. It's not as like to the point as this one is, but there's not a lot of ums and ahs with this guy. Like he speaks and he talks and he gets from one point to the next point to the next point, and he talks in plain talk, and it's just really good. And he has a whole section on how to draw kitchen cabinets, and so that is not in that other one. And so I thought
that's massive for you.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. And he also goes over a lot of the what do you call them? Extensions that you can use for different things. So I mean, and he shows you some free ones and stuff that you can use for like all kinds of different things. Fredo Tools makes a bunch of really nice extensions for it.
I have a few extensions in there. I don't use them nearly as much as I should, but
I don't even know how to activate an extension. I downloaded one. I couldn't even figure out how to activate it, so I don't know how to use it. So
that's fun.
Do I need
we'll
to get into SketchUp just so I can show you guys how to use it?
You do.
I'm just kidding.
Well, you can learn a lot just by watching his free YouTube ones.
Yeah.
Because he did like a fundamentals one, and you could get to where you could just use it. And there's free versions that you can use, just the one online. Actually, you can download the 2017 version, and they just don't support it anymore.
Yeah.
But you can download the pro version still for free and have it on your computer and use it. So
there you go.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah. So actually, I do have a project coming up where SketchUp would be very handy.
I guarantee you could give Jess the measurements and he would have it done faster than you could probably download SketchUp.
I did draw a built-in today in just a few minutes, and I was like, I'm getting this.
Nice.
I like it a lot. So.
Nice.
I just love the precision and scale. Like I was drawing today the built-in for the lady, and she's like, "What's it look like?" Well, it kind of looks like this. I'm like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "I can draw this on a computer, man. I swear to God, I can't draw in like real life unless I've got like a ruler."
Mm-hmm.
So, I put it together, and man, what a tool when they make changes.
Mm-hmm.
What a tool when they make changes. I'm dealing with a business. We've talked about that the other day, and they're like, "Well, can you make this a couple inches taller?" And this, I was like, "You understand, like." You said you wanted it this tall. There's no more room. I said, we'll have to steal some measurements from this. And she's like, okay, that's okay. And so
now let me ask this as a rebuttal, when you're going back and forth, have you set up like a design fee initially, or do you get like a certain number of renderings?
So this is how we do it. We talk to the customer and I give them a round number. It's probably going to be around this. Do you want to keep talking? Yes, I do. No, I don't.
Okay.
And so then if the way we structure it, if the project's a long way off, we get a 30% deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the time comes, I will make them a drawing. And when we start, they'll approve the drawing. Then when we order materials, then we get another part of the deposit. And then when it's all done, they pay the rest of it. If the project is close, they pay the deposit and they do drawing. I don't do the drawing until they pay the deposit. Very rarely, only if it's something very simple.
Okay.
Because it's just easier for me to draw it than it is to do it on a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a business and they've been keeping a conversation going for like a month and they're still going back and forth, and I feel like they're serious, or they're not saying things like, well, we got other bids and it was XYZ, then I'll go ahead and make them a drawing. You know what I mean? Nothing real fancy, like I'm not going to put all the crown and all that other stuff in it, but I'll give them some scale. So that's kind of how I've been handling it. Like you said, listen, you tell me what you want. I'm not designing the thing for you. I'm just not. If you want to pay a design fee, we can add that in there, but you can sketch out on a napkin what you want and I'll draw it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. There'll be no charge for that. But yes, I will start charging a design fee if they want us to design something from the ground up. Like, I don't know what I want, but I'm willing to pay you to design it and everything. Sure.
Okay.
But that's not a bid. That's different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's how we kind of try to will explain it to them. This isn't us bidding it. This is us. You're paying us a fee to design it. And I do have some designers that give us some stuff in SketchUp too. So that's awesome. There's another program called Rhino. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it, never tried it.
Rhino is like real good for like construction drawings, like like cabinets, because it just gives you like the front face and the side faces. I don't know what it's like, but a lot of people give me stuff in Rhino. Although I have heard that in design schools, like
they use old school CAD.
They use CAD, and the companies require CAD on their like when you apply that you know CAD. So that's still the industry standard.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Colton, what do you got for a nugget? Snugget.
Oh wait,
Snipe.
so I looked up what that saw was named. The pull saw I was talking that's been amazing in my pack out kit.
The butterfly knife one?
Yes. And so it's tough built.
Okay.
And so there's no U in built. So TOUGHBILT. And at least online from Lowe's, it's $39.98. And I've cut a lot of stuff with it in the last few months, and I love it. So
okay. All right.
I'm gonna get one because I need a good handsaw.
Yeah, the tough built one. One tip on it. It took me a while to figure out. So whenever it's in the closed position, there's this bar that comes over. It's kind of hard to get like the little bar that connects the top of it. Just pull on the exposed metal piece.
Okay.
You'll know what I mean when you get there.
All right. Gotcha.
Okay.
Interessante. My nugget, I guess, would be when you're going to do an install, try and plan ahead for all the tools you're going to need. And
Keep a Home Depot nearby. Yeah.
well, so I luckily
I'm just kidding.
my wife was at our shop today when I happened to need those Japanese pole saws. I was like, they're up on my wall. They're the brown handle pole saws. Can you just bring those? And it was within 10 minutes of the shop, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I was almost to the point where I was going to try and bring the cabinet back to the shop, describe it there, and then come back. But yeah, that would have sucked as well. But overall, yes, planning ahead for all the things, think through what the process is that you are going to have to do to install that piece and try and bring all the pieces you can think of that you are going to need. It's better to have too many than not enough. Yeah, so that is the nugget. My snipe would be when people have you install somewhere, and this has happened to me multiple times, you get put into a room or an area of the house or the business where all the heaters are on blast. It was literally, and I'm not exaggerating, today's temperature was a high of 19 here in Chicagoland. Ooh. When I went to do the install, it was 9 degrees. So the heaters were cranked. The room I was installing in was probably 85 degrees. And I showed up and I had dressed for kind of working in and around outside. So I had jeans and a long sleeve shirt and this quarter zip I have on and a vest as well. And I was sweating like a whore in church. It was brutal. So I understand some people get cold. I am typically not one of them. But at the same token, there's got to be a limit to, like, you have to think of other people. And if you're having somebody come to do work in your home or business, don't try and turn the place into a sauna. It's unnecessary. So
unless you want them in and out quickly.
Yeah.
So
which in your case would not be a good deal. Yeah.
What do you think that, and it's the same with me, and I think I figured it out for me, but like, what do you think it is that we always don't bring what we need? Why do you think that is? Why do we like try to pack light?
So there's two things. Number one, when you pack light, you think, oh, I've thought through every step of this. I'm only going to need these tools. And you don't think of any of the potential complications that could happen. And then number two, it's more of a case of like, I've done all the prep work beforehand. Like I pre-drilled and countersunk all the holes where everything's going to attach. I have everything ready to go to where I literally just need to put in a couple screws with a drill, and that's all I'm doing. And then you get there and you're like, oh, by the way, I also need to do this. The one thing I always forget is a buzzy, and it should be the one thing you always have with you. Always. But like, I brought my scribe kit. I brought the sander. I brought the portable vacuum. I brought a whole bunch of stuff. I did not bring a buzzy. I had to come back with it later to cut the trim. But I think that would be why. You think that you've done all the thought process and pre-prep, and you don't think you need to bring everything. I will say, on a side note though, if you have a vacuum attachment or if there is an option of a floor sweep kind of vacuum attachment for your shop vac, get it, use it. if you clean up the job site, if you will, so it looks like you were literally never there and a piece of furniture just appeared, your customers are so much happier.
Yeah.
Like in the time it took me to do the initial install and then come back a few hours later, they had already set up all the computers and set up everything. And they were like, this is amazing. We love this. Thank you so much for it. And they were just ready to move in. That's what you want. Doing that extra step means so much in the customer's eyes. Most of the time they're going to say, oh, don't worry about it. But like that little thing of you vacuuming, it goes so far. So
it does. It really does.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I would say it goes in line with like what I said earlier with it's kind of an experience thing. Because honestly, there's so many little things for you to like off top of your head remember every little bit and every little tool it's very difficult, right? And but like you forget your buzzy enough times, you're not going to forget your buzzy anymore.
Yeah,
it's just remembering how you effed up the last time.
I will say if you can plan ahead and try and use the same screw head type for as many things within that job as possible.
Oh, screw heads.
That'll save you a bunch of time so that you don't have like T25 here and Phillips head there and T15 here and it's like a standard straight screwdriver here. Like try and make everything uniform as possible so that it's just seamless.
I will say, I think with me, the reason that I forget stuff is, like you said, you kind of lie to yourself. Like, I'm not going to need a ladder. I'm not going to need the buzzy. I'm not going to need, and then you're like, oh crap. And then you just forget,
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Or, something's there that you don't know about or whatever. So, but I think also one of the reasons is it's like this psychological thing that like, I got to take all this stuff and put it in the truck, and then I got to get it all back out. Then I got to put it all back in. Then I got to bring it back to the shop and put it all back in the shop. So that's why over time, like I have a lot of tool bags.
Yeah.
And we keep a lot of the stuff that like we only have one of in the shop, and it stays in that tool bag.
Yep.
And it's like tucked under the table. And when I use it, I get it out of the tool bag. When I'm done, I put it. And so like there's like a grinder bag. There's like a brad nailer bag with like brad nails and stuff. There's the buzzy bag with like all the buzzies, and there's like a charger. Like there's chargers peppered everywhere.
Yeah.
So that we don't forget that. So that way, when we leave, it's just like put it all in the trailer.
Yep.
Like you just got these. You spend some money on some nice totes, whatever it is that you like. I've come to really like the Husky ones that are open.
Yep.
Not the fold up kind, because I can't stand it when they close over the top, but. And we've got those, and there's like ones for pliers, and there's like ones for screwdrivers, and they just go in the trailer. And
we started doing that with these pack out kits we're doing.
Yeah, same thing.
So we have like a chandelier pack out kit, and it's got all your all thread and T-nuts and all that and wires, and then we have just different ones. Yeah, like one for like specific jobs, because it would be a lot of tools if we're bringing every tool we needed. Yeah.
I think you need to have a really nice, Ross, coping saw in your kit, because it seems like you always have these little details you want to cut around, and you really could do a lot with that.
So I do have an Irwin coping saw, and it's supposed to be nice.
Now you need one of those like $100 ones I got on Amazon. They're like aluminum frame.
You see like the red aluminum frame?
Yeah.
Dude, I see those all the time, and I'm like, but I hate coping saws. I don't want to ever use that. Like,
you could have used it today.
Yeah, I could have.
Could have used it today. They'd take a little corner off of something, or.
Yeah.
It's funny. We went to go do a job the other day, and he's like, you don't need the buzzy, right? And I was like, we always bring the buzzy. And there was no reason for me to bring it. I'm serious. I don't even remember what it was. And I got there, and I needed the buzzy.
There you go.
Sure enough. I mean, it's the rule, right? You wash your car, it rains. If you don't bring it, you're going to need it. If you do bring it, you're never going to need it. Like that's just the way it stinking works.
That's the way it goes.
The drill bit box too. I have a huge box labeled, and it says Torx, Phillips, Square, and there's a million of it, and then there's drivers. The other thing that I've noticed lately that I haven't had is like sockets.
Yep.
Like to drive a lag, like a 1/2-inch one, and then like Allen wrench ones that fit on a drill, like especially if to put something together. You just have a big thing of drill bits and you just take it with you every time you go?
I definitely have like a go bag that I have all the stuff that you need for almost every job. There's always 2 tape measures in there, 3 or 4 pencils. I have a small adjustable square in there. I have a chisel. I have a box cutter. I have trim remover, like kind of crowbar, smaller trim remover pieces. Yeah. And there's usually a box of drill bits and a box of actual like drills, or not drills, but the not the bits, not the driver bits. I have one for driver bits and one for drill bits, should say. And those always stay in that bag, and painter's tape. That's always in there too.
Yeah.
You know, pliers,
it saved my butt. In addition to that, is a box of assorted screws.
Yes.
Like different lengths.
A million different kinds of screws.
I actually, one of the Festool boxes that I got a while ago has a big, like open container on top that I pack a whole bunch of stuff into, and then a slide out drawer on the bottom where you can remove all the different sections, and I fill them with different screws. And that way I just grab the one I need, go over to the piece I'm working on, and then I have all the screws there, and I refill it after I come back every time.
We have one with like all my favorite ones for cabinet installations.
Yep.
I have one that's like for concrete stuff, like Tapcons and stuff. We have one that is like little tiny cabinet screws, like little 5/8, 3/4 itty bitty screws, just like, and slowly. But I swear when we go somewhere, it's so much stuff, but I've never regretted taking it. I'll tell you that.
I mean, that's part of the benefit of having that trailer. Like everything is just kind of there anyway. So you're not lugging more stuff to one job or another.
It's nice now because I don't have to load and unload the trailer as much. I got other people to do that. But
there you go.
It was
good for you.
It was like when I did my handyman thing, it was always a thing. Always that I need something. I don't have it. It drives, and then it's like that's a huge thing because you're losing 2 hours no matter what you do.
Oh yeah.
You know,
every time you leave, you got caught somewhere.
It's just a nightmare. And then you could go to it, and they are out of them, and then you got to go on another Home Depot or whatever it is, and you're just trying to make $100, you know, putting the toilet in, and everything's going wrong.
Yep.
So,
well, boys, I think that's a good place to leave things off. We're nearing the 2-hour mark here. Is there anything else you guys want to add in?
That's good for me, brother.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Well, on that note, to all the listeners out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. We hope you enjoyed every second of this episode. If you didn't, please send all your complaints to our Special Forces trained legal representation of Eversman, Hoot, and Grimes, where their motto is, nobody asked to be a hero. Sometimes it just turns out that way in court. For Jess, Colton, and Ross, this has been the Beat Around the Bench podcast, and we will catch you all next time.
See ya.
All right.